I'm Andrene.
And I'm Joel.
And this is Rewind Rewatch, a 90s movie podcast. Welcome back to another episode of the Rewind Rewatch podcast, where my brother and I either rewatch or watch for the first time 90s films, and then we discuss the plot points, who's in the film, any quotes that stand out, the theme behind the movie, and then at the end, we give each film a rewind rating between 1 and 5 to determine how likely it is that we would rewatch this film again. Today, we are talking about Dangerous Minds from 1995. This is an R-rated film with a 1 hour and 40-minute runtime, and this was requested by Thwip Stickers out of Georgia.
Shout out to Clip Stickers.
He was our sole lucky duck this week. So, Joel, before we talk about who's in this movie, have you seen this film before?
Yes, I have.
Once, twice, 3 times, a lady?
3 times in 8th grade. Maybe once or twice. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've also seen this movie quite a few times. I believe I saw it probably when it came out, maybe.
I don't think I saw it when it came out, but I definitely saw it at some point in the last 30 years.
Okay, fair enough. This is starring Michelle Pfeiffer. She is pretty much the sole star in this film, and she plays the character of Luann Johnson, who is actually a real person. Did you know that?
I did.
Yes. Luann Johnson is an ex-Marine who ended up essentially getting a job working as a teacher in this school, I believe like in the San Francisco area. And she wrote a book about her experiences in 1992 called My Posse Don't Do Homework. So you weren't aware of that title, I'm guessing.
I was aware of the title. It was the first note I took as I was watching this film because I knew it was an adaptation. I'm really hoping that was a title that was a direct quote from one of her students and that she didn't just come up with that on her own. But yeah.
So Luann Johnson is one of the writers of this, and I gotta say, before we start to like slander this film, which I'm sure we might get into, Luann's experiences in real life differ greatly than what we actually see in the finished product. So much so that Luann was actually kind of pissed off by the way some of the changes were made based on, if you read her book and then you actually watch the film, you'll see that quite a few things have been changed to make things, more Hollywood-esque, to make the kids look worse than they actually were, to make her look less experienced than she actually was. And so we'll talk about it more, I guess, as we go through the movie. But as far as Michelle Pfeiffer on this podcast, we have not seen her on the main feed, but we did see her on the Patreon because we did cover What Lies Beneath.
Yes, we did.
So if you do want to catch that episode and other episodes where we talk about late 80s and early 2000s films, sign up for that Patreon. It's just $5 a month. Now, before we...
Wait.
What?
Didn't we do Batman Returns?
Wow. Yeah, that was like episode 4.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that was early on.
I just thought about that.
That was early on. That was actually one of the ones that we did before we actually started taking requests.
Okay.
So it is your turn this week. Last week we had our friends from Movie Smash, so none of us had to do it. But this week it is up to you to give the listeners your 1-sentence summary for Dangerous Minds.
So, as you said, a former Marine takes over a class of misfits in an inner city school and works to inspire them.
Yeah. Now, going into this movie...
Well, so hold on. And then maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but it was unclear to me if this actually was an inner city school. Because the opening scene shows these kids in this really rundown part of the city.
Mm-hmm.
They're all getting on this bus, And the scene, the movie opens in black and white. And as the bus drives through the suburbs, the black and white changes to color. And we see them all in Miss Johnson's class after she gets hired. And it seems like these are all the kids that are not doing well, the kids that are kind of being pushed to the side, the kids that are being forgotten, whatever. But it was unclear to me if that was the reputation of the rest of the school or even if where the rest of the school was, because later in the film, when there's a couple of kids that stop going to class and she goes to talk to their mom, she has to like drive a pretty far way out.
Yeah.
And then the mom is like, yeah, I'm not sending my kids all the way out there anymore. So I'm like, maybe this school actually isn't inner city. It's just this class.
That's correct. So the students that are in her class are actually bused from Palo Alto. And the school is supposed to be in Belmont, California.
Is that a real place?
I think Belmont is.
I mean, I know Belmont University is a real place, but I don't know if it's in California.
Yeah, I think it is.
All right, cool.
But yeah, the kids are definitely bussed in. And I guess we can kind of start there. When she goes in to the school, it's essentially at the start of the film, we see that Luann is friends with this man named Hal. Hal is a teacher at Parkmont High School, and she is there on an interview just to become a student teacher. And as she's talking to the lady who works for the school, her name is Carla. Carla says to her, like, oh, actually, we have these kids in this academy, and we really do need a teacher. Are you able to start tomorrow? And Luann's kind of just like, I mean, I thought this was a student teacher position. They're like, yeah, we really need somebody. Their teacher is out. We've been through multiple subs. They don't ever come back. But, this is a special class. But what they failed to really tell her is that when they're saying special, in Luann's mind, she's thinking these are the bright, gifted students. And for some reason, she didn't really understand what they were trying to communicate with her. Because even when Hal says to her, like, wait, are you sure you want to take this job? And she's like, well, yeah, like they're special, they're bright. And I felt like Hal didn't really warn her as efficiently as he should have as a friend. So that was my first thing. I was like, Hal, what are you doing?
They gave it a very light, like, he gave like a very light attempt to try to correct her. And then she was like, no, I don't want to hear it. I'm going to teach. And he was like, all right. Like that, like he didn't really push back. I did look it up. This is a real place. The school is actually called Carlmont High School in real life, and then in the film they changed it to Parkmont High School. But
nice.
Belmont is real, and the kids were bused from Palo Alto. But going back to Hal, I feel like for me it was like, all right, this is probably not what a friend would do in this situation. Mm-hmm. But I also feel like they wrote it that way for the benefit of creating a surprise for the audience, right? Like if he comes in and just tells her like, this is what the class is going to be, then we lose the moment of her being introduced to the kids in the first day. So I feel like that was more so, again,
for us.
It's for us. And this is why films very rarely follow the book, because books, especially if you're writing a autobiography or a memoir, are just going to be what happened, not necessarily what's the most cinematic.
Fair enough. And when she gets there on the first day, she is she seems very mouseish. Like the kids come in, like, I mean, they're saying sexual things to her, talking about how the last teacher they threw to their dogs. We killed the bitch, talking about the last teacher. It's like, bro, what is that? The kids are sitting on top of the desk. They're rapping. They're dancing around. They play.
One kid has a guitar.
Yeah, I mean, they're not paying attention at all. They're kind of just like, why are you here? We're not going to pay attention to you. Like, we come here because I guess we have to, is how they feel. But they're not doing any learning.
They're just waiting it out until she quits like all the other ones.
Exactly.
That bitch was too ugly to eat. Fed her to my dogs. But I'll eat you.
She is definitely taken back, so much so that Emilio, who is one of the kids that we see pretty often in this film, Emilio makes a comment about how like he would eat her up. He's making a lot of sexual comments towards her, and she gets like so overwhelmed that she like runs out of the classroom in a flurry, like in tears, like oh my god, because she can't believe how crass these high schoolers are acting towards her. And I found it a little odd that this is someone who's supposed to be a Marine, and
Yeah.
she can't handle a couple of kids making crass jokes. I mean, granted, I've never been in the military, but from what I know, people I know who went to boot camp, like, people are like yelling in your face, cursing you out, calling you all types of stuff, like during basic training to essentially get you prepared for not, not letting things like that get to you. And the Marines are supposed to be like the best of the best of the best, right? Marines
Sir.
are supposed to be like the,
With honors.
the tough, the rough ones. So I'm like, there's no way this Marine is gonna be like crying because the guy said he was gonna eat her. I was like,
But it's also
All right.
it's also the naivete, like later on in the film where she breaks up a fight and then she's like, "All right, guys, promise me you're not gonna fight
God.
again." I'm like, I don't really believe that that's how a Marine would handle that
No.
situation where they're like, "All right, guys, give me your Scout's honor and then just go back to class." And just like, and then the girlfriend's sitting there like, they're still gonna fight, right?
She's
And
like, "What?"
Huh? It's like, come on, bro.
Yeah. So that all of that I didn't find to be very believable. I said, okay, I guess they're writing her this way. Okay, I suppose. But we find out, as far as Luann's character is concerned, that she apparently left the Marines, I guess, after she was discharged, and she was working for her then husband's company. They have since been divorced, and basically, because of the divorce, she's now trying to find something to do. And the husband apparently was abusive towards her, because she tells Hal later on that, yeah, he's a jerk. Hal apparently used to be the husband's best friend, and Hal has now sided with Luann, which means, I mean, most times when your friends break up, you typically stay closer to whoever your initial friend was. So the fact that he essentially chose Luann over his best friend lets us know, as the audience, the best friend was clearly trash.
And then we later find out that he was beating her. And then she was pregnant and she decided to have an abortion.
Right. Now, this school has some serious issues. They have no Xerox paper. They're short on pencils. They seem to just be lacking as far as supplies. But
Which also lends the question of why are kids being bussed here? This school doesn't look like it's in good
yes,
shape.
that's kind of why I was like, okay, so I'm kind of confused, because typically when you're busing them to a better location.
Yeah.
And so it was like, that's
It's a
probably
better
why
location, but the
Yeah.
school doesn't seem to be doing well. Not to mention, these kids are basically just getting like profiled and pushed aside, which defeats the entire purpose of a busing program. So it's like, oh, we're gonna bus these kids from the hood. We're gonna just put them in this other classroom, and then in the case of Callie, she gets pregnant, and they just basically make her believe that she can't go there anymore, even though it's not actually a real rule. So it's like they're doing everything they can to basically just like corner and push these kids out of the main population of the school. At which point, like, don't even have a busing program.
Yeah.
Because you obviously don't want these kids at your school.
And then I was trying to think, like, okay, if just these kids are being bussed in, I thought that there would be more scenes where like these kids tended to like stand out from the rest of the students in the school.
Mm-hmm.
But even like the scenes we see like in between classes or before or after school, like I feel like all the kids just kind of seem to be dressed the same way. Like I didn't see any real differentiation. I mean, I think there's one.
Academically, E too, because we see scenes where Hal is grading his students' papers,
Right.
And he's calling them all idiots,
Yeah.
which is like not great for a teacher to be doing. But it's clear that they're not like, it's not like he has like the advanced class and Luann is stuck with the low kids. It's
Right.
like, it doesn't seem like this is a good school. So why do they have a busing program? I could just send my kid to the high school in the hood and save them the time of having to wake up early in the morning to go to another bad school that's 20 miles away.
The only difference was at least how students were behaved. You know?
Yeah.
That was really the main difference I saw. And like the kids that she got, they were throwing things at the front of the classroom and making a mess. So her big plan was, I'm gonna go up on the board and I'm gonna write, my name on the blackboard. Like, hi, I'm Mrs. Luann Johnson or whatever. And everyone's kind of like, okay, I don't care. So then Emilio, when he talks out of turn, she goes to the blackboard and just writes Emilio's name on the board, and everyone's like, ooh, Emilio. Everybody's just laughing, but it's like, apparently she was reading some book about how to teach, we see, and in the book it said something about like writing their name on the blackboard would be an effective way to discipline, and she quickly realizes that this book is not going to help her with these kids because it was completely ineffective.
Also, Emilio's like 26 years old. So I feel like writing a kid's name on the blackboard is something you might do in like first grade. Like you would do that with like a 7-year-old. You're not gonna do that with a 17-year-old, and certainly not with a 27-year-old. So I'm like, yeah, this is not gonna work in high school.
Yeah, I didn't know why she thought
like
that's
an elementary school tactic. So again, to your point, like they definitely show her as like clueless to begin, and then like little by little she finds her way. Where the real Luann Johnson had like a master's in English. So,
and she was an actual hard ass. Because I actually watched a YouTube interview that she did. Well, not an interview. She was actually speaking at some like educational program, and she was talking about actual stories from when she was teaching. And I was like, yo, I feel like her class would have been really fun and really engaging to be in. And one thing
yeah, but that also doesn't. Yes, and she's probably also not going to stand in front of an audience and talk about all the things she did wrong in her first 2 weeks. Like, she could have gotten good, but maybe she wasn't good at the beginning. I doubt that she was this unprepared, though. Absolutely. And again, like, I feel like that's the cinematic thing to, like, it's not as interesting of a film if she comes in and she's already, like, good. It's like, oh, she's clueless, and then she has to bribe them with candy and take them to the carnival.
Teach them karate. Let's talk about the carnival, because the fact that you're taking these high school students to an amusement park without letting their parents know, there were no permission slips signed, and also the school board had no idea, or at least the principal had no idea what was going on. It's like, you can't do that.
They probably took like public transportation because
they just met her there.
She obviously never, obviously never got like a bus.
Yeah. They met her there, and then she just paid for all of them. And then she was like, oh, like, they were going to go out anyway, and they all invited me to come, and I just felt so overjoyed they invited me, so, I paid for them. It's like, girl, you're not fooling anybody. We know what you actually did. And it's actually kind of wild, because I get why she was doing it. Like, she wanted to make sure that she was rewarding them for whatever it was that time, doing their poetry
in class,
or learning how, is this a verb or an adverb or a noun by looking through sentences and all that. Like, I understood the motivation behind it, but it's also like, there are some rules that are there for a purpose, because what if someone was hurt? Like, things like that can be a little dicey. But
sometimes you gotta break the rules.
Break the rules. So one part that, well, there's a lot of parts that stand out, but you mentioned the karate. Mm-hmm. This was on day 2. So she comes in now and she's realizing, I got to put my game face on. Day 1 was a disaster. So this time she comes in early before they get there. And this time she's wearing her leather jacket and her boots.
That's the shift. Leather jacket shift.
And now she's sitting down at the desk. Her feet are up on the desk. She's reading a book. She's completely unbothered as they walk in.
Yeah, of course.
One kid walks in and pulls down his pants and like shows his boxers to her, and she's just like trying to act like cool, calm, and collected. Nothing is bothering her. And this time she writes on the board, "I am a Marine, and I know, like, anyone know karate or something?" And they're like, "Karate? Like, I know karate." So now the kids are like, again, I never had a teacher ask me about karate. And I started thinking about, like, I feel like around the 90s, there was like this obsession with karate. Like, thinking about like the Three Ninjas and like just like this idea of
Power Rangers,
particularly as kids, like all these like hi-yas and the kicking of it. I don't know why we were so obsessed with
Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that like old karate films were really popular in the 80s. That's something that obviously Wu-Tang Clan talks about a lot. Even if you watch some of those old movies like Wild Style, some of those old hip hop movies, kids in the hood were watching a lot of karate films. Um, so that was like happened in the 70s and 80s where you had like Bruce Lee. And then in the 90s, there was a lot of, like you said, karate stuff catered towards kids, whether that was Three Ninjas, Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers. And then you also had obviously Jackie Chan films.
Yeah.
So there is like this weird like correlation between, um, inner cities and karate. I don't know why that is, but there is like a connection there.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I was like, yeah, that used to be really big. So now they're into it, and she shows them, like, basically a couple of moves, how to take somebody down. And so now they're engaged because she knows something that is intriguing to them. They even said, I heard a Marine could kill somebody with their bare hands. And she was like, yeah, it's true. And one of the kids, like, acts like he's about to hit her, and then she, like, blocks it real fast. Everybody's like, oh, because this like younger white woman is sitting here and she's able to like spar with me, and so they're starting to see that she is not their typical substitute or their typical teacher. And little by little she starts to gain their interest by giving them things that may kind of pique their interest. And one thing that she does is she gives them lyrics to a Bob Dylan song, the Tambourine Man. And it's about this guy who I guess is like a drug dealer who's I guess selling weed, and she has them analyze the poetry in those lyrics and ask them, what exactly.
Well, it sounds like Bob Dylan's the user, and he's
Yeah.
fiending for a connection. He's fiending for more drugs from his Tambourine Man.
Right. And so they're able to read it and understand it, and she's trying to basically let them understand that you're reading poetry. Although their song lyrics, it's very similar to how poetry is written. And I thought that was something interesting to do. And it actually brought me back to when I was younger in school and I had a teacher, Mrs. Carla, shout out to her. And she Carlo. Oh God, I said Carla. You know why? Because there's a Carla in this movie. And she had us look up Alanis Morissette's lyrics and basically talk about them. Like, is this song actually about things that are ironic? And a lot of the stuff were not actually ironic at all. But something like that to do where you're taking something that's current. Now, I will say in the movie, these kids didn't know who Bob Dylan was. So it was like,
she was just like, "Oh, we're gonna read this poem."
Yeah.
She didn't. I don't even think she told them at first that he was a songwriter.
Right.
It was just like, "Oh, here's this poem." So they didn't know. They just thought he was a poet.
Exactly. Exactly. And then she has this Dylan contest eventually later on where she has them basically trying to find a poem by Dylan Thomas that has a similar theme to a lyric from Bob Dylan. And she's slowly getting them to think outside the box and realize that they are able to have critical thinking skills. They're able to read something and understand the meaning behind it. And it's interesting because there are a lot of issues with the film, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But one thing that the movie does a good job of is showing that she actually did go above and beyond or out of her way to show the kids that they were able to complete this type of coursework. Whereas it seemed as though other teachers kind of just pushed them to the side and like they were having
administration was pushing them to the side. Forget the other teachers.
Oh,
like
Lord.
She's doing this all on her own. It's not like she's getting any sort of support. It's just like, oh, follow the curriculum. That's all that they're telling her to do. Yo, this is the book on the curriculum. Make sure they read this book. Follow the curriculum. Don't upset the apple cart. Like, just do what you have to do and go home. She's like, well, that's not going to work because these kids don't really want to be here.
Not to mention, the book that they wanted them to read is My Darling, My Hamburger, which...
I don't know what that is.
So I looked it up just to kind of see. It actually is a real book. And it's supposed to be for reading levels grade 7 to 9.
Okay, so yeah.
So she looked at it and was like, yeah, this is nonsense. I'm going to give them something else. And these are all inner city kids, like Joel said. They are around a lot of drugs, a lot of gang violence in particular. And so, she's writing things on the blackboard like, I want to die, or I choose to die, or, something about a homeboy. Like she's trying to write things in a way that
Connects
relates
to their real
to
life,
their
yeah.
real way of thinking. Exactly. Whereas other teachers are like, well, why are you talking about karate and talking about dying? Like, this is not appropriate behavior. It's like, well, they're learning and they're actually interested in my class. But no one seems to care about that. So what were your thoughts on the school administration? Like, did you think that they were just getting a bad rap? They were doing too much, or?
Well, again, I guess this is like the next point I was gonna make anyway. So,
Okay.
like, I feel like everything that happens in the film is kind of the administration's fault. Like, the kids are not being set up to succeed. And we see later on in the movie where they have this conversation in the classroom about having choices, and the students feel like they don't have a choice. Hey, I have to live in poverty. I have to live in this neighborhood that's not safe. If somebody steps to me, I have to defend myself. We have to come to this school, da da da. And she's like, well, you actually don't. Like, you choose to get on the bus every day.
We don't have a choice.
You don't have a choice. You don't have a choice on whether or not you're here?
No. If we leave, we don't get to graduate. If we stay, we got to put up with you.
Well, that's a choice, isn't it? You have a choice. You either don't graduate or you have to put up with me. It may not be a choice you like, but it is a choice.
Man, you don't understand nothing. I mean, you don't come from where we live. You're not bused here.
Do you have a choice to get on that bus?
Man, you come and live in my neighborhood for 1 week, and then you tell me if you got a choice.
But there are a lot of people who live in your neighborhood who choose not to get on that bus.
Part of it is them not really understanding what choices they have, but that's also due to the fact of the choices that they have are by and large determined by what choices are presented to them by the adults in their lives, whether that's their parents or whether that's the people who are running the school when they get there. So I'm sure some of the students that feel like I don't have a choice but to get on the bus and come to school is probably because they have parents that are holding them accountable. But then when they get to school, what choices do they have? Oh, you're below reading level. You're going to go sit in this class.
Yeah.
You're going to read this 7th grade book. Oh, you got pregnant. You're going to have to go to this other school, which
Right.
actually isn't even a rule that's being upheld by the Board of Ed. If you don't knock on the door before you enter, I'm not going to listen to your problems. Like, all these things are... The students feel like they don't have a choice and they feel trapped. And Miss Johnson is really the first one to create choice for them.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that's giving them contests, whether that's being able to take them to a nice restaurant that they've never been to, taking them to a carnival that they never got a chance to travel outside of their own neighborhood. Like, just giving them options to see different things and read different things. That's kind of like what a good school does.
Right.
And this is not a good school because it seems that Principal Grandy, who is played by Courtney B. Vance, is mostly just concerned with maintaining law and order, for lack of a better phrase.
Right.
Like, he has like his idea of like what a good school does standard wise. And then so he's just like, I'm just going to do these things because I can't let these kids dictate my rules. But what he's missing throughout the course of him just basically setting these hard and fast rules and forcing the kids to adjust to them. Like, yes, you have to have rules as an adult, but if you are refusing to talk to students because they don't knock on your door first, which is like an extreme example, but it's also like you're not allowing them to even feel welcome. You're not creating
Exactly.
a space for them to even want to engage, want to learn, want to entrust in the adults in the room. Like, you have to create safe space for students, especially those who are coming from spaces that are not safe. Like the school has to be a haven, and he completely doesn't understand that.
At all. And going
And
back,
the AP backs him up. Like it's not like she's like, oh yeah, Principal Grandy's bugging. Like the AP is like, yeah, he's right. This is how we do things here. So she's basically by herself in all of this.
yeah, the AP Carla pissed me off probably just as much as the principal did, because the whole thing with Callie is when we find out Callie, one of the students, is pregnant, and Callie is played by Brooklyn Harris, who we saw before on the podcast. She played Keisha in Juice. And she basically found out she's pregnant.
Keisha.
Mm-hmm.
Who was Keisha?
Wasn't she? She was the baby. Wasn't she the baby mama for one of the light skinned boy?
Oh, okay. I just remember Omar Epps dating that grown woman.
Yeah, no.
I'm like, I know that wasn't her.
Yeah,
yes, I
she
remember
had a
now.
baby,
Yeah,
so she was
yeah,
pregnant in that one too.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
And basically, like Joel said, like she was told that she has to go to this other school named Clearview. And Clearview seems like one of those schools where they basically just teach women, how to change diapers, how to be a mom, basically. But she's not going to get...
It's a new kind of education.
Yeah, she's not going to get any academic education. She's not going to be able to get her high school degree going there. And the assistant principal, when Luann goes to her to be like, so there's no actual rule, like Callie can actually come back here. She's like, yeah, well, most of those girls, after they had those kids, they don't come back anyway. And the way I see it is, it's dangerous to have a pregnant girl in the classroom. Pregnancy is contagious. I was like, what?
That is medically untrue. But I also feel like what she was really saying is like, we don't want girls getting pregnant here. So if they see that they can get pregnant and still come here, then other girls will do it too. And we don't want to deal with it. So we're just going to get rid of them.
It's insane.
It's like, that's
like,
really what it is.
You don't want them to get an education to better themselves? No?
Well, you brought up Callie, and Callie is, probably the most interesting student in the class.
One of the brightest.
Emilio's interesting too. We'll get to him in a second. But Callie is very, from the onset, you could tell that she is the most perceptive at the very least. Even before she opens her mouth, you notice by some of the close-up shots that they use throughout the film that she's noticing everything.
Yeah.
She's noticing how her classmates are responding to Miss Johnson. She's noticing how Miss Johnson is responding to her classmates. And you can also tell that she kind of like knows all the academic answers and just picks and chooses when she wants to pipe in.
Absolutely.
But as I'm watching this, and like as the film goes on and the students get more comfortable with Miss Johnson, and then they start engaging in class, and she always has the most thoughtful responses. She's the most insightful student. And I'm wondering, as I'm watching this film, why is she in this class?
Yes. Thank you.
Because presumably, this program is supposed to be for the kids who are doing the worst academically. They don't say that explicitly, but that's what I'm led to believe. And this kid's bright, and she's perceptive, and she can read, and like, there's really no reason for her to be in this room other than the fact that she's from that part of town.
Exactly.
She's from wherever, Palo Alto instead of Belmont. And so I'm like, all right, so is this classroom just all the bust kids?
That's exactly what I got. And that's why I'm like, so they're saying that all the bus kids are just these unruly kids that don't know how to act?
Which is crazy. And
make
also
sense.
like counterintuitive because, again, it doesn't make sense to have a busing program if you're not going to educate the kids that are being bused. What's going to make your school look a lot better is if you're busing kids from Palo Alto and then they're graduating and then they're getting into college.
Exactly.
That's going to make your school look great.
Exactly.
Oh, look at the opportunities that they gave to these kids. That's going to increase your funding. That's going to increase, like, it's going to just be better for your schools. I'm like, I don't know if this is what they did in real life. I'd have to read the book to find out, but like, it doesn't actually make sense if this is how they carried it. The school doesn't seem to be like doing itself any favors.
It doesn't. Yeah, I had a lot of questions about that, and I'm glad you're bringing them all up because I was just like, I'm confused about how this school works and this busing program and all the kids in her class. But you mentioned Emilio, so I suppose we can go there next.
Yeah, let's go to Emilio.
So Emilio is this kid who's like too cool for school.
Literally.
Like, he's like a good-looking guy. He's clearly in a gang. He's dangerous. He has this beef with this other student in the classroom, Raul. And Amelia has a girlfriend. I don't even remember they're actually saying her name, but Emilio, it's very clear. Callie realizes, and she kind of tells Luann, she's like, yo, if you want to get the class on your side, get Emilio. Because Emilio is basically the ringleader. There are times when Luann will call on the student and they'll like look at Emilio to be like, should I even answer this? Should I even read this passage? And I find it so interesting to see that you had this one kid who was pretty much controlling the class. It kind of reminded me of when we cover other teen movies and there's like typically there'll be like the popular kid where it's like, oh, if this kid thinks you're cool, then you're definitely cool, kind of a deal. So in this situation, it wasn't quite that. It was more like, if you want me to answer this question or to give you any kind of respect, Emilio has to respect you first, and then I'll respect you. So that was something different that I hadn't seen from other films we've covered. But when she eventually gets in with Emilio, and the way she does that is after Emilio and Raul eventually do fight, because, as Joel said, for some reason, unbeknownst to me, Luann didn't realize they were going to fight anyway. They fight. This, Raul and his other friend get sent home. Emilio, I guess, is like an in-school suspension. And that evening, Luann goes to all three of the students' homes and meets with their parents to talk to them. And she didn't go to rat them out. She basically went to say like, hey, like I see promise, in your kid. I love having him in the class. The scene where she goes to Raul's parents is really touching because Raul thinks for sure he's about to get reprimanded. And she tells his parents, like, he's a very bright kid. He's one of my favorite students. I love having him in the class. And just so you know, he was defending himself against a bigger kid so that he wouldn't get in trouble. And when it gets back to Emilio that she went to all of their parents' homes, he was like, wow, that was really cool of you. And after that moment, now when she's in class and she's saying things, Emilio is the one that says, read that again, teacher, let me answer the question. And now that Emilio's given the green light, now the rest of the class is like, oh, well, if he thinks you're cool, I guess we'll do this assignment and I guess we'll participate.
Yeah, I think it's also not so much the fact that Emilio's the coolest. I think Emilio is the toughest and is a bit of a bully. So it's also like, if I engage and Emilio's not engaged, then he's going to make fun of me. Like, I think that's really what it is, more so than them following his lead. I think it's more so just the fact that he is the most dominant personality in the room. And so it's kind of like everyone is taking his lead primarily so as not to be opposed with him. That's the sense I got. Nobody was going to say that, of course, because they don't want to look soft.
Right.
But it's also like they know that he's the tough guy.
He's the head honcho.
Yeah, he's the tough guy, and he's the biggest boss that they've seen thus far. So it's like, all right, if Emilio's not on board, then I don't want to be jumping out here, and then everybody's gonna make fun of me. Because you know how it is with kids in high school, middle school.
You don't want to stand out at all.
Yeah, you definitely won't want to stand out when there's kids that are getting joked on too.
What do you think about the scene when Luann takes Raul to the fancy restaurant? So they have this Dylan contest, and Raul, Callie, and another student win, but Callie and the other student both have to work, so they can't make dinner, and so Raul goes with Luann. It's very fancy. This is clearly the very first time that Raul's ever been to a restaurant of this caliber. And they sit down, and he's feeling very, insecure about being in this space. He doesn't really know how to act. And she is basically talking to him like, yeah, like, this is how you call the waiter over. Go ahead and order your meal. And she's very intentional about not making him feel like he's less than, and that he is not only welcome, but that he belongs in this space. And that's one of those things that I thought was like a really touching scene, and something that particularly kids growing up need to know. It's like you don't have to come from a certain neighborhood to be exposed to this kind of environment. And it's like just coming down to simple respect, really. It's like this waiter is going to respect you because you're here and you're going to order your meal. And I really liked the way that she was interacting with him during that scene. And this is where he basically tells her that he wanted to look nice for the dinner. And so he got this leather jacket from a guy on the street. It's probably stolen. And he's like, yo, just a heads up, don't go to my parents and let them know, but I got to miss school for a couple days because I got to get some money to pay for this jacket. And she's like, what? And he basically tells her, like, yeah, the jacket was hot. I got it from this guy. I got to pay him back. And I owe him like $200 or something.
$200. And if I don't pay him, he's going to kill me.
And he means kill me. like, or at least beat up very much. It's not like, oh, you owe me money. Like, it's like, oh, I got to pay this guy back. And so she gives him the money.
Yeah. Well, she gives him the money because she's like, if I don't give him the money, he's either going to get killed or he's going to sell drugs.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the options. And she's coming out of pocket a lot because she's paying for this dinner. She's giving him money. She's paying for the carnival. She's buying snacks and treats for the classroom. She's getting them additional supplies for class because she doesn't want to read the curriculum. The school has no paper, so she's probably going to Kinko's or something to print all this extra stuff. Like, and she's making like $25K a year, which I don't know how much that is in 1995, but it doesn't sound like a lot.
Mm-mm.
So I don't know. I think it's a touching scene, but for me, the scene was so sad.
Yeah.
Because what it made me think about was the fact that, like, the knock-on effects of being in poverty, right? Like, poverty is not just about, like, oh, my life conditions are poor and I can't afford things. Like, yes, that's the basic of it. But it's also about how much being in poverty limits your worldview, right? Like, so we see that with her, even just like her passing out copies of the menu in class for them to look at, or Raul not knowing how to order because, right? But I think when you watch this conversation and he's talking about like, oh, this is what I had to do because I'm coming to this restaurant and I didn't have anything nice to wear.
Yeah.
Like, in his mind, I can't show up without a nice jacket on. So what am I going to do? I'm going to have to borrow this stolen jacket and then sell drugs to pay it off. Not thinking that, like, there's other options here. Or you could just wear your regular clothes and they're still going to serve you.
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? But this is all a knock-on effect of him having a limited worldview, him not being exposed to things, and just basically guessing how he's supposed to respond. And so that's what made me like so sad watching the scene, because it's like, this is all completely unnecessary, but he has no idea because he just doesn't know better.
Exactly. Dang, that is sad to think about when you say it like that. Well, talking about sad, we gotta go back to Emilio.
Well, yes, we'll get to Emilio, but I think also the other thing that is making me think about in terms of like the whole idea of like options, choices, what options do I have? What options do I think I have or even know that I have? And there is these two twins, Durrell and something else. I don't remember the other kid's name. Okay. Who are in the class, and basically they stop showing up to class. She goes to their house to figure out what's going on. She goes to talk to them, and the mom comes out and tells them, go back inside. And the mom is like, oh, I seen you sending my kids home with all this poetry and stuff and trying to give them like homework and all these questions that they're supposed to answer, which is like a weird thing to get upset about. But my takeaway from the scene was that mom's perspective was, we're poor, we're struggling to survive, and I need my kids working to
Exactly.
basically pay the bills. And like them learning how to read poetry is not helping us get out of the situation that we're currently in right now. Like that's not going to help us pay the rent. And so basically they're not coming back to school.
I'm Luann Johnson. I'm the boys' teacher.
I know who you are. You that white bread bitch messing with my baby's mind.
I beg your pardon?
My boys don't go to your school no more, and that's gonna be it.
You took him out of school?
You damn right I did. I saw what they were bringing home. Poetry and shit. A waste of time. They got more important things to worry about.
Don't you think that finishing high school will be valuable to their future?
That's not in their future. I ain't raising no doctors and lawyers here. They got bills to pay.
Which also raises the question of like, why were you sending them to school in the first place?
Man, that was the whole
Because
issue.
like it seemed like you were triggered by them learning how to read poetry,
Yeah.
which is a weird thing to get upset about. But like, anyway, yeah, that mom didn't really make a lot of sense for me. Because it's what was the actual trigger that's like, oh, well, they definitely can't go back there now.
Yeah.
They're reading Bob Dylan lyrics. This is so offensive when we need rent money. Okay, like you needed rent money before.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Because I'm like, so when they were coming home with no homework, that was fine?
Yeah,
'Cause they were still going to
it didn't
school.
really make sense. I feel like the scene wasn't well written.
Thank you.
But I feel like the idea that they were trying to get across was like this idea of someone having more options down the future or be able to go to college and then get a good job in 7, 8, 9 years
Can't wait that long.
doesn't make a lot of sense to someone who is like living literally check to check.
Mm-hmm.
And how am I gonna like get them food tonight? Like, all right, yes, that's nice for them to like get a high school diploma and maybe go to college, but like I'm not gonna be able to afford college anyway. So this is like a huge waste of time. And that is a real thing. And that's like there are parents that definitely feel that way. But I think for the twins is also like, all right, so now what options do they have? Because they're living in a home where the mom is telling them, you're not
Don't
going
go.
to that school no more.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, like the poverty is not just about the lack of money. It's about the lack of options and the way your worldview is being cut short. Like now they're going to be able to see less simply because of the situation that they had nothing to do with. They were born into it.
That's so dark.
No, this is not like a happy movie.
No, I know it's not, but
it's called Dangerous Minds. Like,
I know, but it's just, yeah, it just seems so, it's like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. You know what I mean? Like, and I kind of started thinking about when we did Boys in the Hood and you had the mom with the two sons. And like we said before, like she was treating one son very differently than the other one. You know, one had promise. You know, one was about to go to school, do sports. The other one was just kind of dope boy in and out of jail. And so she kind of talked to him like he wasn't going to be worth anything. And in the same way, this mom, or I think it might have been their grandmother, but whoever it was, this maternal figure is basically just saying like, yeah, like these boys, I need them to go out and get a job. Which of course begs the question, they could still do what Callie was doing and go to school in the morning and get a job at night. If money was like such a dire need, they still could have done that. But in her mind, it's like, she probably also doesn't really think they're that smart to begin with. So it's like, these boys, what are they going to do?
and they probably were not like bringing home A's.
Right. Matter of fact, the reason why Luann's teaching even really started to appeal to these kids is that she says to them that everybody starts with an A in her class, and it's up to you to keep it. And when one of the kids is like, nah, you lying, and someone else was like, shut up, I never had an A before. So,
I hated that line, by the way.
never had an A before?
Yeah, I didn't like that line at all.
That is actually a true story.
It is?
That actually, yep.
Okay, well,
That's
I guess I gotta take it back.
that's actually a true story.
That did not feel real to me in the moment.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, hey, calm down, man. I never had an A before. I want to hear about this. I was like, wait,
because
what? Like, this didn't feel like
she
real.
said in the interview what ended up happening was that she got basically like the old teacher's book, and the book she basically had like F's like going down the book, where it's like, bro, if all of your students are getting F's, maybe you might want to reevaluate how you're teaching them. But okay, and so a lot of the kids were saying like, I'm already getting an F in this class anyway, so like, why should I listen to you? And so she said, well, I have my own grade book, and I'm starting with a clean slate. So she said, I got my red pen out, and she said, I put an A down next to everybody's name, and said, everybody starts with an A. And basically, it's up to you to keep it, or your grade drops down. And just having that visual of knowing that, like, I'm starting the class with an A, it kind of changed their mindset to think like, oh, I can actually earn an A. And so, yes, that's actually real. So,
Wow.
so someone did say that in her classroom.
All right. Well, I'll take it back. All right. So we were going to talk about Emilio. So Emilio, like
man.
you said, is Mr. Cool Guy, Mr. Tough Guy.
Rough and tough.
He's doing something. We don't know exactly what he's doing, but whatever he's doing is not good because he beats up Raul early in the film for owing him money. Where exactly is he getting money from? We can only assume. He seems disengaged from school. He's the last student basically to come around. And really only gains, Miss Johnson really only gains his respect because he sees that she's putting an effort to actually care about them.
Right.
All right. So then we find out that some kid who was just locked up gets out of whatever, jail, juvenile detention, whatever, and is mad at Emilio because he feels that Emilio stole his girlfriend. And he's like, you need to like stop seeing her and give her back like she's a jacket or a pair of sneakers.
This is high school though. That's how kids talk. I mean, we definitely have seen fights over girls.
Of course,
like,
but like they never make sense
No.
because it's like, so how does it work? All right, man, my bad. You can have her back, and then what? She's gonna be like, I don't want to be with you, and then.
Well, he said, I'm just gonna get him off the table. That way, if I kill Emilio, then now she'll come with me.
Sure. So he basically threatens to Emilio like, yo, you're dead, bro. And so then Emilio's response is, of course, to get a gun.
For protection, you know? And so Emilio's girlfriend is scared because she doesn't want to lose him. So she tells Luann, she's like, yo, you gotta hide him, do something, because like I don't want anything to happen to him. And so they're able to convince Emilio to go to Luann's home. And she basically is like having him like hide out there so that this guy doesn't figure it out.
So he's not in the neighborhood.
What'd you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, where else is the kid gonna go? They live in the same neighborhood. It's either like he's gonna go back home, the kid's gonna look for him. He's not gonna be safe in his own house. And best case scenario, he kills the kid first and then goes to prison for the next 25 years. So it's like, yeah, he's just gotta go somewhere. And also it buys her time to be able to talk through options with him.
Yeah, because basically she's like, you need to go to the principal and tell him what's going on so that I guess the principal can like file a report or do something to try to help you out.
Well, Emilio mentions that the kid is on drugs. And so she's like, if you tell the principal that he's using, the principal will have to remove him and put him in like some sort of like rehab center. And that will at least like maybe give him time to cool down and he'll come out sober. So her plan is to kind of like diffuse it and kick the can down the road.
Fair enough. And so the next morning, Emilio goes to school. So she wakes up, Emilio's gone from the house. So she's like, dang, where'd he go? So she runs to school, goes see the principal, and she's like, did you see Emilio? And the principal's like, yeah, he came by. And she's like, oh, thank God. What did he say? He's like, I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? He's like, well, he opened my door and he didn't knock, so I sent him away. She said, you sent him away? And this is a scene where, like, the first time you watch it, you're just like, I mean, it's gut-wrenching. Because it's like, so, and earlier on in the
It
film.
doesn't get any better the next few times.
Earlier on in the film, though, we see that this principal has a really big hang-up about this door because when Luann first goes to see him, she has been summoned to the principal's office, and she goes and she opens the door. And he's like, excuse me, like, this is an office or this is a school, whatever. I'm trying to teach good behavior. And he chastises her for not knocking on the door. So we know this is a thing for this principal. And so
his response is, I'm trying to teach these students how to exist in the real world.
Yes. But also it's like, if Emilio is coming to you, this is not a kid that comes to the principal. Mm-mm. So you set that aside, you figure out what's going on with him, deal with the issue.
And this is what I'm talking about, bro. Like, this principal is so hung up on this is right and this is wrong and drawing these hard lines when it's like, you're not creating any space for you to learn about the world they're coming from. You want all of them to come into the world you're coming from. And assuming that you know better because you're a principal and you gotten your degree and you've been able to go to college and all this stuff. But it's like, bro, like, if you can't relate to students on some level, they're never going to learn from you anyway.
Yeah, it felt like for me that he wasn't acting like a principal. He felt more like a jail warden. It was very much. I mean, that's what it was.
There's a lot of schools that feel very much like jails, and that's what the whole, what's it called, school to prison pipeline.
Yeah,
is like. You treat your students like inmates and basically just drill. What's the word I'm looking for? Compliance into them, where it's like they're not actually learning; they're just being told when to stand, when to sit, how to follow rules. It's like, that's not preparing them for the real
There's no
world.
critical thinking. There's no, like, how to take a passage and figure it out. It's just like, okay, these are the rules, follow them. And if you don't, sorry.
Yeah, like, was this principal exaggerated? Maybe, but I don't know for sure that he was. And I'm sure there are a lot of people running schools that, especially at this time in the 90s, stuff like this was happening all the time. I feel like there's more like of a focus nowadays on like responsive classrooms and like some of the like the no excuses types of schools that existed even in the 2000s. I feel like ed policy has kind of like moved away from that. But in the 90s, forget about it.
Yeah. So because he gets turned away, Emilio ends up leaving the school, and we find out that he was in fact killed by that student that had just gotten out.
3 blocks from the school, which means he probably got killed after the principal turned him away.
Oh, absolutely.
And he left in a tizzy. He's mad. He doesn't know where to go. He gets found, murdered in the middle of the morning before school even starts.
Before school starts. And Luann, of course, is rightly upset. Like, she's pissed off. And when Carla comes to her and tells her what happened, she's like, are you going to tell them now? And she's like, yeah, I mean, I might as well. The kids are inside the classroom. So she's like, yeah, I got to tell them. And so she's like, all right, maybe this will be like a good learning lesson for them. So she's like, what do you want me to tell them? If they don't want to get killed, maybe you should knock. And she's like, oh, come on, that's not fair. It's like, no, it's not. Like, that's literally the whole point.
That is what happened, though, bro.
It's not. It's
like,
not
that
fair.
is literally what happened.
Yeah. So now he's dead, and this is actually the last straw for Luann. In the film version, she is distraught because, like, you have Emilio has been killed. You have the 2 twins who have been taken out of the classroom. You have Callie, who's been
Your brightest student.
pretty much forced to leave because she got pregnant. And she basically tells the kids, like, yeah, I'm not coming back next semester. Like, this is it. And the kids don't want her to leave because Raul's like, yo, what about you? You told me that, like, I had until graduation to pay you back for the jacket. Like, what was all that talk about, us believing in you and this, that, and the other? And she's like, yeah, but I mean, it's just too hard. I can't. And so then they start like quoting back the poetry to her. It's like, what about, not going gentle into that good night? Like, what about that? They were laying it on a little bit thick for that one.
Bro.
And she's like, well, kids,
They said, you're our tambourine man. I was like, nah, dog, I can't do this. I didn't like that. That was too much.
You didn't like that?
I didn't like that.
Because there's no way that they said that. Like, no way in hell. Well, that didn't happen, so let me say that first. Like, none of this happened. But, I was like, okay, this is a little bit, laying on very thick.
And she said, what do you mean I'm your tambourine man? I sell you drugs?
Yeah.
He said, kind of. You're giving us what we need.
And then you had that one student with her bangs over her eyes. You couldn't even see her face.
I don't know how she saw anything.
Her bangs were like almost to her nose.
It was fascinating. I'm like, how does she live this way? How does she go through the world?
It felt like a cartoon character. Like they drew her that way.
100%.
I was like, why her bangs so long?
Nah.
And she's like, we're gonna have to tie you down to a chair and gag it because we want you to stay. And everyone's like, oh yeah. And so although she's packing her box, she ends up staying because Callie ends up showing up for her last day of class. And she's like, Callie, you're back. I can't believe it. And she's like, yeah, well, apparently she had 30 days. Like after 30 days of absences, they basically make you leave. But it was like day 29.
Yeah, it's like basically like we just send the pregnant girls away because after they absent for 30 days, then they're they're no longer enrolled.
Yeah.
So like you basically pass like the mark of truancy to still be an eligible student.
I get it, but like if she came back on day 29, but she's still pregnant, I'm like, you're gonna have to go back out.
She can't be absent again for the rest of the school year. But maybe this is June, and she's gonna have the baby in the summer.
Okay, maybe. Because I was just kind of like, well.
Then the clock restarts in September.
I hope so. Because I was like, girl, you're not giving yourself enough time.
I mean, it's not really about that. It's really just about
I know, but
getting Miss Johnson to stay.
I couldn't help thinking. I was like, she's still pregnant though. So I'm like, what's gonna happen to her and this baby? But yeah, so Miss Johnson sees her. Callie's there. Everybody, she's the tambourine man, and so she tells her friend Hal, like, well, they called me their tambourine man, so I had to stay. I was like, oh, Lord have mercy. Now, as far as like rolling of the eyes, and there's a lot of things to roll your eyes about in this movie. And for me, the first thing that stood out was the number of times they played Gangsta's Paradise in this film. So opening scene, they played the entire song out, opening credits. Like they basically played a whole song out. Then during the fight between Emilio and Raul, where she breaks it up, they play the instrumental of the song. Then when she goes to visit the house of the twin brothers, they play it again. And then at the end credits, they play the whole song again. So I'm like, bro, 4 times they played this song during the movie.
It's a great song.
It was so much, though. I was like,
it's
come
a great
bro.
song.
Yeah,
Yo,
put something else.
When you think of Dangerous Minds, that song is the first thing you think about.
The song or the video?
I mean, both. You think of Michelle Pfeiffer sitting down with the backwards chair.
Leather jacket, baby, in the boots.
The same leather jacket.
Yeah. Well, the song ended up winning a Grammy for Best Rap Solo, and it won MTV Video Awards for Best Rap Video and Best Video from a Film.
It's a great song.
So, I mean, it was popular. It was just overkill. I was like, enough. It was enough. Enough was enough. What was eye rolly for you?
So I feel like when you think about films that have like, the white savior complex, this is one of those movies that often comes up. I mean, this is no Blind Side.
Oh, yeah.
But I think coming into the film and already having that kind of like in the back of my mind, I was like looking for it. And like, honestly, I don't feel like it was as bad as I thought it was going to be.
Same.
Like, I thought it was going to be, like, really cringe, and I didn't feel that way. The only thing that was really making me roll my eyes for real was just, like, some of the cheesy things that the students say, or, like, Mr. Tough Emilio just sitting in the corner, disengaged with school, and then out of nowhere, he's like, hey, wait a second, read it again, Miss Johnson. I'm like, what? I don't know if that's what he would have said.
She got him on her side.
Yeah, like some of that stuff was like a little bit eye rolly for me. And then like Hal calling his students idiots while he's grading their papers.
Yeah,
I didn't
like
love
that.
that
I
at
didn't
all.
like that.
But for the most part, like it wasn't. I saw someone trying to like do right by these kids, but it didn't strike me as like, oh, she thinks that she's like the savior of the blacks. Like,
Yeah,
it wasn't as
yeah,
bad as I
yeah,
thought it
yeah.
was going to be. And the other thing that I want to say about the end is when she's like, "This is too much for me." Before she makes the announcement that she's gonna leave, I was actually saying to myself,
Would I stay?
"Yo, I don't think I could work for this principal after this." More than just the trauma of like one of my students getting killed, it's like this is my supervisor, and I don't respect this man.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know that I would have stayed if I had to work with this idiot who clearly does not care about these kids.
That's a good point to make it about, having to work in that environment because they're constantly butting heads. The curriculum, she has to basically sneak and hide what she's teaching the kids.
Yeah, I was like, yo, I don't think I could continue working here after this whole thing. It would have been too much. But she does stay.
She does. She does stay.
All right, so
Were there any quotes you wanted to highlight?
I didn't really notice a lot of quotes, or maybe I just wasn't paying attention to them. But one thing that she says in the course of this conversation in class is that she's talking about them learning things, and they're like, "Well, what's our prize if we read this thing, or what's going to be our reward?" And she's like, learning is its own reward. Mm-hmm. It's not just about winning a trip to the restaurant or getting a candy bar. Like, you can sit in here and not learn anything, and you're the same walking out as you were. But if you do actually learn something, then you're actually better preparing yourself. And she says each new fact gives you another choice. Mm. And that was the best quote in the movie for me. And actually, like, while we're here, this is a perfect segue into the theme, because I think that's the theme of this movie. Like, the theme of this movie is about the choices that you have, that you don't have, or that you think you don't have. And I think the theme that's kind of like threading through the entire film, not only through like Miss Johnson's words, but also through her actions and what the students are able to learn from her, is like, you always have a choice. It might not be great choices. It might not even be choices that you particularly like, but you still have one. Mm-hmm. And I think that was what she was trying to do throughout the course of the film, is just like provide them with more choices, which is really what educators are supposed to be doing.
Yeah. I mean, that was clearly like the biggest theme. If I were to talk about a second one, I think for me it was about respect. And you talked about how the principal had essentially negative respect for these kids, and it ended up resulting in Emilio's death. Whereas Miss Johnson realized that in order to get respect from the kids, you have to give it. And the way she did that was really by not talking down to them and by giving them stuff that either was on a regular high school level or even a little bit above. Because she even said to Raul at one point, the poems that you guys are reading, some people don't read until they get to college. So what you got to think about? I don't think I wasn't reading Dylan Thomas when I was in high school. I did some Shakespeare, but I think that she made it a point to show them things that other teachers weren't going to show them. She's like, I'm not going to make you read my whatever hamburger, whatever the hell the name of that book was. She's like,
it's like a middle school book.
I'm not going to do this to you. Like, I'm going to give you guys actual content, make you think about it, and relate it in a way that makes sense for you. And I think that by showing them that respect, by, taking them to a nice restaurant, making them feel like they were worthy of having these nice things, it made them in turn respect her and want to learn as well. So I think they had some really good themes overall in this film. All right, you want some facts?
Let's hear them.
I mean, they're pretty much all going to be coming from the actual Johnson, because I think she had a lot of interesting things to say about this film and about how it was made. As you can imagine, she had some gripes about the finished product of this film. One thing that she mentioned is that in her actual class, the kids were evenly mixed. She had black, white, and Hispanic. She said in the movie, they made it all minority kids with a token white kid here and there. When this perpetuates this myth that only minority kids are at risk and that white kids don't have any problems. And she said, I told the producers, you know, there are black kids who don't have a crackhead for a mom, and there are Hispanic kids who don't speak Spanish. And that their response was that they had an on-set gangologist who said the script was accurate. I don't know what a gangologist is.
Oh, man.
No words, just laughter.
Because it's like, bro, you're a Hollywood producer. Where are you even finding anyone that knows anything about gangs? Number one. And number two, how could what they're saying be more accurate than the words of the person who actually lived the situation?
Exactly.
I was there. You're telling me what I'm saying is not accurate?
In the same line, she says there's a scene where she gets branded a white bread bitch, and they say that throughout the film. They call her white bread. And you talk about the twins who dropped out of class, and the grandmother says that to her. And she says when she saw this, and she said, "Why is this in here? Where did this come from?" She was like, "Yes." So then they said to her, like, "Well, we're sure that some of the black and Hispanic parents must have resented you." Now, they say black and Hispanic students. After she said there was white kids in her class, but all they're focusing on are black and Hispanic kids. I'm sure a bunch of them must have resented you. And then she was like, for what? For helping their kids? She was like, no one said anything like that ever to me. Like, I've never had that conversation with any of the parents. So that was false. She said that what really annoyed her the most about this movie, above all, was the filmmaker's decision to kill off Emilio for the sake of a climatic, dramatic impact.
Of course.
In real life, she said what happened was one of her students was shot in the leg by a gang member. He called her in the middle of the night to tell her that basically the rest of the gang was waiting for him. So she drives to his house, she picks him up, and then she takes him back to basically a basement apartment that she rented outside of San Francisco, basically far away from where the gang resided. She basically ended up hiding him there from this murderous gang for multiple days until they were able to sneak him out of the country. Like a Edward Snowden is basically a situation. Like, get him out of here. And you got to think about how interesting that story is, right? It's like, bro, like she smuggled a student out of the country.
That would have been a way better story.
Right? So it's like, why didn't Hollywood use that story? Instead, they decided to just like kill the guy off screen. And she's like, I don't understand like why they did that. So as she's telling the story, she's like, this is what actually happened. They were like, well, what we can do is, how about when you have Emilio at the apartment, we can have you like have an affair with him. She was like, absolutely not.
What?
Absolutely not. And then she said, the writers seemed genuinely surprised that I didn't want the fictionalized version of myself committing major crimes in a blockbuster movie. She said, I said it's child abuse, statutory rape, and a felony offense. I would lose my license and go to jail. I don't have any money, but I will sue you if you do this. I don't sleep with children. After that, they never invited me back to the set. So
that's not good at
just
all,
to tell you, like, Hollywood is out of control and they will do anything to get what they believe is a good story. And I'm like, you guys had a golden opportunity to put this story in there, and you decided, no, we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to make the class mostly Hispanic and black, make them like throw racial slurs at her, and make sexual comments to make her uncomfortable because this will be a better story. And the last thing I wanted to point out is that the real life Emilio actually ended up joining the Marine Corps and then ends up settling down in California with a wife and kids. So he was alive and well long after Luann taught him, and he ended up joining the Marine Corps after her influence, which I think is great.
So do you think this is, do you think if Hollywood were to take a book like this and remake it today, that they would still make the same choices? Do you think it's a sign of the times, or do you think it's just Hollywood being Hollywood?
I think now that we're at the age where we are now, it's more likely that someone who was around our age might be directing it or producing it. And I think Hollywood is definitely making changes based on what people want to see. So if they realize now this white savior complex is a thing and people don't really want to see that, then it's possible they would probably talk to Luann and be like, well, tell us what actually happened in the classroom. I mean, I can't promise they would keep everything. They probably wouldn't keep everything, but it might be more.
Because I feel like the decision to kill Emilio versus like smuggling him out the country, that's a major decision. And I'm wondering if they still would have done that today.
That would be a great story, though.
Yeah.
You know, not to mention the follow up, maybe like oh, where's Emilio now? And like they could do all types of specials and documentaries on it. Like,
Yeah, I was actually
Yeah.
expecting at the end of the movie for them to be like, you know, they usually have like the
this is
the
where they are
tie-in,
now?
the tie-in at the end that says,
yeah,
Miss Johnson stayed at the school for the next 15 years and won the Teacher of the Year award or something like that. But like, nah, they just went to the credits, and I was like, oh, so they're actually not tying this back to the real story at all. Like they're just telling their story and ending it.
well, probably because, like I said, she was so pissed off about what they had done with it at that point. I mean,
Yeah, they didn't harp on the based on a true story.
they're like,
Because they didn't even put it at the beginning where it usually says, like, based on a true story. It just
Yeah.
says, based on this book.
yeah,
Yeah.
Because
Adapted from.
because she was tight.
Yeah.
And she was like this. She said, I will sue you guys. So clearly she was serious about it. And watching her talk on this YouTube video, I'm like, yeah, she's nothing like the way Michelle Pfeiffer portrays her. Like she's feisty. Like, I was like, yeah, I can see her like get into the classroom and being like in these kids' faces, which is why it probably worked. I know I said I was done with my facts, but I just wanted to point out, talking about Hollywood and how they like to like do things that are unnecessary. We oftentimes will mention that in films they will add in these love stories that don't need to be there. I'm happy they didn't do it here, but initially there was supposed to be a side story containing a romantic relationship with Luann and a character played by Andy Garcia, and they ended up cutting it out. And I'm actually glad they did because this movie did not need that.
Nah, it would have just made the movie longer. But like,
And take away from the kids.
the movie's about the students.
Yeah. So kudos, I guess Hollywood, kudos for that.
Yeah.
That one small part. All right. And now,
It's time for the Rewind Ratings.
okay, since this was my pick this week, I believe I will go first. Okay, you actually said what I was going to start my conversation with earlier, and that's the fact that I went into this movie being like, this was like the original white savior film. You know, she's going to come in ripping and roaring, ready to show these Black and Hispanic kids how to be proper and how to act correctly and all this other stuff. And I went into it and I was like, oh, like she seemed like a very like empathetic character who just wanted to help these kids out. And if anything, I think Hollywood was the one that made it, you know, more racial than it should have been based on what the real Luann said about this film. So, you know, I don't fault the character of Luann in this film for acting a certain way. I think she did what she could for the students. She went out of pocket financially to do so. And as far as things that made me like squirm or like didn't age well, like I think again you nailed it. Like the whole like you're my tambourine man. I did not need that line. That line did nothing for me. I guess that's what made her stay. But for me, I was like, there's no way a kid is gonna say this. Like, there's no way. So I didn't really buy into that. And as I said before, there was just too much Gangsta's Paradise. I'm sorry, Joel. I'm not saying the song is bad. I'm just saying it was too much.
Can you ever really have too much Gangsta's Paradise?
Too much of a good thing is still too much. So
Luther Vandross said never too much. That's what he told us.
He did say that. He did say that. But yeah, this is a fun movie. I mean, you're getting to see her in the classroom. You're getting to see her way in over her head over time. She gets a little bit better. She, you know, gets the kids involved. You know, it's It's fun. It's a fun watch.
I don't know if I would describe this as a fun movie, but all right, I get what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not like I'm sitting there waiting for something to happen, is what I'm saying. And this is basically an hour and a half, so it's relatively short. So, like, they get in, they get out. The points are all made very clearly. There wasn't a lot of waiting around for something to happen. And the messaging was pretty clear as well. Would I watch this movie again? I mean, probably not anytime soon, because I've seen this quite a few times when I was younger. And going into it now, yes, when you're older, you're seeing things differently, but there really wasn't a lot of like aha moments where I'm uncovering something new. So, I mean, I get the gist of it. I don't think I need to revisit it anytime soon. So I'm just going to go middle of the road and just call it a 3.
Okay, yeah. I would say similarly, I was worried that this would age worse than it actually did. A lot of what I didn't love was really just like the writing choices, like the twins' grandmother, some of the like cheesy lines. Read that again, Miss Johnson. You're our tambourine man. Like some of that stuff I could have done without. But generally speaking, I really enjoyed how little I was offended watching this again. And I think the themes are really powerful and still ring true about just like the knock-on effects of poverty and the power of choice. And I think that's something that even as adults, we oftentimes don't always like grasp fully, like that you have more choices than you realize. And so I thought that was really well done. And yeah, I think this is like a good movie. I think it's easy when it's like, okay, you think of this movie, you think of Gangster's Paradise, and you think of like, here's this white woman in a classroom full of Latino kids. And like, technically that's true, but I feel like the movie does more than that. And so I'm now like reconsidering my own view of this film being just like white savior trash. Like I don't really feel like that having seen it again. The last time I saw this movie, I did enjoy it, but I was younger. And so watching it again now, I was like worried that it wasn't going to age, but I felt like it did. So I'm going to give it 4 rewinds.
A 3 and a 4. All right, well, let us know how you would rate Dangerous Minds. And then hit us up with any comments, or if you have any requests for movies you would like for us to review, you can send us an email to rewindrewatch1990s@gmail.com or via social media at RR90spod. As I said before, if you'd like to support the show and get access to bonus episodes, as well as exclusive chats with other patrons, as well as Joel and myself, then you can join our Patreon for $5 a month. All right, Joel, do you have any final words for Dangerous Minds? I already know what you're going to say. Or do I not?
I don't know what I'm going to say.
Oh.
I don't know. I don't have anything.
Tell me why.
Oh my God.
So blind to see. No?
Yeah, I mean, the ones we heard are you and me. That's true.
All right.
Adios.
I guess we'll see y'all next week.
Sure.